안녕하세요 여러분. 저는 여러분의 한국어 친구 나탈리아입니다. So today I just wanted to talk to you guys about how I first started learning Korean and how exactly I went from like basically an absolute beginner to lower intermediate in 2 months. And the way that the reason I call myself like lower intermediate is because when I went to my university in Korea, I tested into the intermediate 1 class. So yeah, that's why I say lower intermediate. But anyway, so just like some history, I got into K-pop and K-dramas in 2010, 2011-ish. But I wasn't studying Korean. You know, I knew words like picklepa and 사랑해, and I knew that verbs come at the end of the sentence. But that's basically it. It wasn't until I found out I was going to be studying abroad in Korea that there was a fire lit under me, and I knew that I had to start studying Korean like now, like here we go, let's do this. So I found out I was going to Korea in December of 2015, which gave me about 2 months before I'd be flying over to Korea to start a study abroad experience over there. So yeah, that's the background. And then so this video is probably gonna be a little long, or maybe 2 parts. I'm not sure yet. But so anyway, so the first thing I'm gonna talk about is goal setting, and then the second part I'll talk about like specifically the things I used and how I studied with them. So we're gonna start with goal setting, like I said, because I think it's really important to know how fast you want to progress in a language within a given amount of time, and know, I guess, what exactly you're going to do to get there. So for me, I had a very strict deadline. I had 2 months. Personally, I wanted to place into the intermediate Korean class, which would be level 3 or 4, according to my university. I knew that I was gonna need, or I wanted to learn at least 1,000 words before going over there. I knew that I wanted to reach level 4, level 5-ish in Talk to Me in Korean. I knew that I wanted to be able to understand basic conversations. And so just keeping that in mind, because depending on what your goals are, the way you're going to go about studying the language is going to be different. For me, it was something I wanted to be fluent in, not something that I just wanted to be comfortable in as a traveler, I guess. So I was studying to be fluent, or I guess I still am studying, but at that time I was studying to be fluent, not just to be able to get around with ease. So before we get started, I think it's important to note that when I tell you guys how I studied, I know this isn't something that is for everybody, and it's not something that I think is sustainable long term. I don't study like this anymore, and I don't think this is a good idea for everybody, just because it was really intense. So talking about my 2-month goals, I told you I wanted to learn 1,000 words. I wanted to be a certain level in Talk to Me in Korean, and I wanted to get through some of my books because I didn't want to take them with me to Korea. So keeping that in mind, I have a wall calendar, a whiteboard calendar, which I can put right here because I have a picture back from January of 2016. You can see that I mapped out all my large goals and even some of my small goals on that calendar, but they were mostly my large goals. So it would say, by next Saturday, I want to be done with Talk to Me in Korean level 1. By the next week and a half after that, I want to be done with Talk to Me in Korean level 2. And the reason I think this is important to map out the larger goals like that on your calendar, especially when you have a set deadline, you can see, okay, what's reasonable and what's not. If I'm learning new grammar structures, it's gonna take me at least a week to get through those 20 or 30 grammar structures in Talk to Me in Korean. I'm not gonna be able to absorb that many grammar structures in 2 days. So I think it's good to see okay, if I'm gonna need a week and a half for each level, you map it out and see, okay, in this 2 months, I'm not gonna get as far as level 9. I'm only gonna get as far as, level 4 or level 5. It also helped with I have a lot of language books, and I'll tell you specifically which ones I used. But I was like, okay, it takes me an hour and a half to get through one chapter. So I'm gonna do half the chapter one day and half the chapter the next day. That way I can not force feed myself too much to the point where I'm not absorbing anything, but I'm still I can see my goals, and this means if I do one chapter every 2 days, then I'll finish my 2 books by the end of that 2-month period. So I think that's important, having your monthly goals set out like that. And then I also had smaller goals, like bite-sized goals like this. I'm surprised I found this actually. Ooh, you can see that. But basically I had all the chapters listed out, and I know for some of these I said oh, I need to go and review Talk to Me in Korean level 24. It doesn't specifically say that on here, but it'll say review. For me on here it says every Saturday I needed to review, because I was learning so much. It's you gotta review sometimes. So on here I had specific days that were just review. I wasn't gonna allow myself to learn anything new. I was just gonna review my Talk to Me in Korean, my language textbooks, anything that I had learned that week and before. I was gonna review it, and then if I felt that I needed to study it more, I was gonna study it more. So this really helped me keep track. Okay, I said that I'm gonna finish Talk to Me in Korean level 1 by Saturday. That means today I need to do 5 lessons. It's so that I can get to that end goal, and it's not, oh my gosh, it's Saturday and I still have half the lesson. So yeah, I think this really, really helped me out. Yeah, there's that. And then moving on to the resources that I used. I'll start with the first thing. So the thing that I used the most was Korean Podcast 101. You've probably seen ads for it. If you've watched, lessons on YouTube, it probably comes up or something. But it's basically a language learning website. It's based mostly on podcasts. Wow. But their podcasts are broken down into different levels. So there's the absolute beginner, upper beginner, lower intermediate, so on, so on, so on, right? And I really, really liked this because I was I considered myself an absolute beginner. So I was able to work through all of the series, or not series, seasons of the podcasts. So absolute beginner had 2, I think, maybe 2 or 3 absolute beginner seasons of podcasts. So that was maybe 16, 20 podcasts per season. I was able to go and listen through all of them, and then work my way through the intermediate. I didn't get through the intermediate, but I got to the lower intermediate, which was my end goal for the 2 months. And I really liked those podcasts because they'd introduce themselves, right? And then they'd have their dialogue. First normal speed, then slower speed. Then they'd go over the vocabulary and the grammar, and they'd maybe give you some cultural insight, and then you would hear the dialogue again. And what's great is if you pay for the subscription, which I did, I paid for the middle level, which for me it was about $45-ish, $49 maybe, because I got it when there was a discount code. So if you're looking for that, just go ahead and subscribe to their email list, and you'll get tons of discount codes all the time. So I liked that because not only did they have the podcast, but they also had PDF notes that went with the lessons. There were word banks, there were video lessons. So if you wanted to go learn about cultural holidays, yeah, holidays in Korea, you go and watch a video lesson on it, and you could learn some new words. And they also had words, videos that are very similar to Talk to Me in Korean, how do I say this? And then there's a whole 3-minute video on how you say that. It was just an amazing resource, and it came with so many things. There was so much on there, and it also had an app too, and so you could download the lessons and PDF notes onto your phone, so you could use them when there wasn't Wi-Fi. So I just thought that was really great. I spent about 63 hours just listening to podcasts, and it really helped my listening because I was going to go to Korea, right? I wanted my listening to be very, very strong. So that helps me out a lot. The next thing that I think really helped me learn Korean were the integrated Korean textbooks, which I have right here. I did a review on these, so I won't talk about them too much. The review will be linked up here. I talked about why I thought they were really good, and I showed you the inside of the books. So if you're wanting to see that, you know, go check out that review. But yeah, these were amazing, and I thought they were really relevant because I was going to be studying abroad, and the whole book is based on like student experiences, so it really helped me out. There were things that when I got to Korea and I wanted to ask a question, like I specifically remember my friend and I, it was our first time like at the university. Not all the students were there, it was kind of empty. We were looking for the library, and I saw this student, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask him where the library is. I was like, I can do this. It was in this book. I can do this. And so I went up to him. You know, I said like, 도서관 어디에 있어요? Like where's the library? And he told me. He's like, oh, if you go that way, it'll be on the left or whatever. And I was so proud of myself, guys. I was amazed. I was like, wow, I really used what was in the textbook, you know, and I understood what he was saying to me. This is amazing. So if you're gonna study abroad, I definitely recommend these textbooks, just because the sample, like the dialogues and the vocabulary and just the things they present in the textbook are good for studying abroad, because it's the same type of experiences that you're gonna have while you're over there. So those really helped me out. Another thing, like the next, I guess, big thing was Talk to Me in Korean. If it's not the second thing, it's probably tied with these actually. But Talk to Me in Korean has free PDF notes on their website, and I can link you guys down below if you didn't know about them. So they have everything from absolute beginner, where they can teach you Hangul on their like YouTube channel, all the way to, I think they're creating level 10 right now, which is like idiomatic expressions and stuff. But basically I studied Talk to Me in Korean almost every day. I got through maybe level 3 or half of level 4. Like that's, these binders are all like printouts of their PDF notes. It's crazy. But the way I studied with those was I'd go through the lessons, right? You know, I'd write my own example sentences, and then I would put little post-it notes on anything that I didn't feel like very comfortable in, or that like a few days later I couldn't remember, so that I would go back, and on my review days, you know, I'd just be reviewing those grammar points and again trying to write my own sentences. And then the next thing that I used was this Mastering Korean by Tuttle, and this I also did a review on, so you can see it up there. This is lower on the list because although it did help me, it's not meant to be your only resource. That's my opinion personally. It's basically all grammar, but if you're familiar with Talk to Me in Korean's PDF like lessons, it's like that but shorter. Like their explanations for the grammar points are a bit shorter, and there's fewer like sample sentences. For some of them, they might only have 2 sample sentences. So it's what I would read when I felt like I just couldn't fit any more information in my head, but I still wanted to study. I would read this because it was fun and engaging, but it wasn't intense. So that's what I would do with this textbook. So those are the main resources that I use that are like books and like things online. And then the next thing I used was an app called Memrise. Memrise is, like I said, an app, and it's also a website. It's completely free. You can see courses on there for Korean, and you can learn vocabulary. Some of the courses might even have some of the grammar points on there. Like for integrated Korean, each chapter introduces you to maybe, it depends on the chapter, but some of them range from maybe like 40 vocabulary words to 100 vocabulary words, depending on what's in the chapters. But so on Memrise, they have both the beginning textbooks on there, and it's got audio. So when it says like 안녕하세요 means hello, right? It has like the Korean, and then under it has the English. You can click on it and it'll say 안녕하세요, and then it might have a male voice as well. I can't specifically remember, but those first 2 have audio. So that helped me out. And just a little study tip, if you do get these and you do use Memrise, I recommend that you go and learn the vocabulary for the chapter you will be learning ahead of time. So if, say you order these books, start learning chapter 1 vocabulary on Memrise before you start doing chapter 1, because it makes it so much easier when you already know the words. So my vocabulary was always a chapter ahead of the chapter that I was actually doing in the textbook. So that really helped me. And then on Memrise, they also have the Talk to Me in Korean. Any vocabulary that's in Talk to Me in Korean, they'll have it in there. So they'll have Talk to Me in Korean level 1 vocabulary, and you can go and learn it, and then you can go through the PDF notes and not be worried about like, what does this word mean? What does this word mean? What does this word mean? So go ahead and I guess try that. And then they also have like other textbooks on there and other like K-pop songs and things like that. So I recommend that website so much. It can also teach you how to spell things. So if you're on the website, it'll ask you to type things out, like 안녕하세요, right? So it'll want you to type out like 안녕하세요, right? Like each Hangul, I guess letter, each letter by itself, you know, like just like we type in English, it's not like in syllables. And then on the phone, the default is the syllables, so it'll be like an, 영, 하, 세, 요, right? But there's a button in like the right above the keyboard on the right side, and it'll with like a little keyboard like icon. You click on that, and then you can actually type out like the and then the and then the so that you can actually learn how to spell it. And I actually preferred the app a lot more because it didn't have like a timer on the side. It stressed me out. And another great thing about Memrise is that it'll show you how big your vocabulary is. So say you go through 3 or 4 chapters of integrated Korean. On your little like Memrise profile, it'll say like Natalia knows, I don't know, like 250 words in Korean. So I could keep track of my vocabulary because like I told you guys, my goal was to get 2,000 words before going to Korea. So I really like that because it helped me know exactly where I was relative to my goal. So yeah, Memrise. I can also link that down below. And if you go to my like channel, it'll have like a link on the left side, and you guys can like see the Memrise list that I personally made for K-pop songs and K-dramas. So go check that out. And then the next big thing that I used was an app called Hello Talk. Hello Talk it's only an app, but it's basically like an language exchange app. So if you go on there, and assuming you're learning Korean, you could go and find native Korean speakers who were learning English. And so you can send them a message saying like, oh, like, hi, my name is Natalia, I'm learning Korean, like I'd love to talk to you or something. And then they'll respond back saying like, oh, hi, whatever. And the great thing about this app is not only does it, I guess, give you a way to contact native speakers if you're not in an area that has a lot of Koreans, but you both know that you're there to learn the language. And it has like a little correction app or like feature within the app. So for example, if I send a message to my Korean friend, my pen pal, right? And I don't know, my grammar is wrong, they can click like the correction feature, and it'll like, maybe I'll add something right here so you can see what I'm talking about. But it'll cross out the incorrect part in red, and then like it'll have the original sentence, cross out the incorrect part, and then feature the correct sentence with the corrected part in green, so you can see exactly what you did wrong. And another great thing about that app is you can send voice messages and you can do calls. So if you're wanting to practice your speaking, this app gives you a way to do it. In addition, you can set like privacy features, so people don't need to see like where you live. They don't have to see like your age. And if you want to set your settings to like only people that are within this age range can contact me, you can do that too. The only bad thing about that app is that there are a lot of people on there that don't necessarily want to learn the language. They're just there to like, I guess, like flirt with people from other countries. So if someone starts flirting, you know, and you don't like it, just block them. But it really helped me out because I remember when I first got on the app, I was having issues forming sentences. I was like, 안녕하세요, like, 저는 대학생입니다. That's it. Like, and they'd be like, what do you like to do? And I'd be like, I don't even know how I would say it, but it was always wrong. So I'd always get corrections, and it really helped me so that I wasn't saying the same thing incorrectly, you know, like 1,000 times. So I definitely recommend it, and you can gain some real insight while helping others learn your native language. So yeah, I think those are all the big resources that I used to study Korean. There were other little things, but they didn't contribute as much. Okay, there's one more app that I do want to recommend. It's called ATracker. I can add like something in here because I won't show anybody else's stuff. But basically, ATracker is an app that allows you to track how much time you've been doing something. So for me, I can get distracted very easily, especially when I'm at home with my family. So I would think that I've been studying Korean all day, when in reality, when you take out all the times I was getting distracted, I was only studying for like 2 hours. That's really bad, because my goal was to study for at least 3 hours a day, right? And I know that might sound like a lot to some people, but for me, you know, I needed that much time to reach my goals. So if you look on there, you can see that I did Korean Podcast 101 for like 63 hours. I did Talk to Me Korean for X hours. I reviewed for X hours. So it helped me stay focused so that if the timer was running, I was only going to study. If my mom said hey, can you do this? I'd be like, okay, and I'd stop the timer and then I'd go do it and then I'd come back and start the timer again. So I knew exactly how long I'd been studying. It just helped me get like an actual measurement of the amount of time I was studying. And according to the government, the US government, you should have, I think it was 480 hours of class time in a language before you're considered intermediate. So I just wanted to keep track of all those hours to see how close I was to what, I guess, linguists and scientists, I guess, say how much time I should spend on a language before I get to a certain level. Obviously that's not true for everybody, but I don't think I'm anything special, so I would consider it to be the average. But, one more app is an app called Dongsa, and in Korean, Dongsa means verb. It's like a cute little app, and you type in the verb in Korean, and then it'll come up with all the conjugations in the present, past, and future tenses. And then if you actually click on it, on one of the conjugations, it'll show you how it formed that conjugation and the definition for that verb. I can't believe I forgot to mention it. But so if you're confused on how a verb should be conjugated, because there are some exceptions to conjugations and just irregular verbs in general, that's a great resource. That still helps me actually. Sometimes when I don't know how to conjugate things, I can just type it in there and see what it says. That is the last app. Promise. Okay. So if you have any questions or want to know any specifics about how I studied with any of the books or anything, or you just want to know more, I guess just ask me in the comment section and I will gladly answer all of your questions. That's it. I will see you guys next time. 다음에 봐요.